We have the privilege of talking once again with Rabbi Leib Tropper. Rabbi Tropper, today we're going to be continuing on our discussion of the insights and limudim of the Chazon Ish. Today we're going to be discussing Marriage and Shalom Bayis, and the subheading of that is something you never heard before. Marriage and Shalom Bayis, wouldn't one think that that's mutually inclusive? And what is it that we haven't heard before that the Chazon Ish is going to tell us about these two very important Indians?
Thank you very much. I am not a pundit in Shalom Bayis, nor a pundit in marriage, but I could read like everybody else could read, and I can understand like everyone else can understand. In the Chazon Ish, there's a short, very short letter of the Chazon Ish. It's just one paragraph, actually. The letter of the Chazon Ish, it's one paragraph where he states what marriage should be and what a marriage that's going to bring and be escorted with Shalom Bayis. So I'm going to go read the letter for you, together with you, Or you could. The Torah says, Pashas Dvarim, when a man is drafted to the army or goes to the army in time of a war, as for Shalom, Jewish war with Klal Yisrael, and he was just married. So during the year Noki Yiyeh Lebeisoi Shana Achas, he is exempt. He's free from going to the army for 1 year. V'simach es ishtoi asher lokach, and you should make happy the woman that he took for him to be a wife. He adds one word. We would think on our own, well, it's a privilege that you're exempt from going to the army and you just stay home with your wife. It's a very nice privilege. So the Chazon Ish affirms firmly, no, it's not a privilege. Choiva. It's a chiyuv to take off for that year. Noki li elabeisa shana achas is a chiyuv for one to take off for that year, and v'simach es ishtoi, and to make his wife happy.
An obligation outright.
An obligation. Ketzad misamcha, how is he misameach her? And the Chazon Ish teaches us something about the nature of women. Teva shelo, the nature of a woman, is le'esaneg al china be'enav. She delights in finding favor and charm in the eyes of her husband. A woman feels great if her husband really looks at her and he feels charmed by his wife. He feels that he really desires her, feels great about her, he wants to be with her. For Elov Einov Nisuos, and her eyes are focusing on him. Her dependency on him is profound. For Elov Eineha Nisuos, and to him, her eyes are focused. Olov Lehishtadel is his job. The onus is on him. Lehishtadel, to make an effort. Laharois Ahava V'kirov. Should show love and being mekarev her, bring her closer. There are limits to love. There are boundaries of love, but there are no limits to love. Again, there are boundaries in love, but there are no limits in love. So he's laharois ahava, to demonstrate, depict the love that he has for her. Bekirov, and being mekara, bring her closer and closer, which has no limit. Beribui sicha, with having conversations often with his wife, with his spouse. Veritzui, and to pacify her, make her feel good, give her chizuk. Ritzui, and again another kind of more intense kind of pacifying, bonding together with her, his spouse. That is that it says in the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. The Chazon Ish asks himself that it says in the Mishnah, Altar besicha ima isha. Be'ishtay amru says even by his wife, he shouldn't have too much discussion with her. That's only be'ena tzorich l'ritzui medaber. That's talking about a case where she doesn't need the discussion, the conversation, the communication. And the Leib that pasuk with that Chazal Perkei which says Altar Basicha Imaisha only refers to a time not in Shana Rishon, not the first year, and not where they need it. To strengthen the relationship, strengthen the love, to strengthen that kind of pacification that she may need for things, worries that she has. Why Shana Rishon is special? Shetzorech leishtadlus his achdus. There has to be an effort on creating this oneness, not the oneness that is you bury one buries themselves in the other. It's a kind of his achdus, a one that have two parts attached together but not lost in each other. You don't just submit yourself to this oneness to the point that you don't exist anymore. That's terrible. You merge the two ones to make them one. You don't dissolve any one of these people, dissolve one of their wills completely or their thinking. It's not about that. Shezek kavanas hayetzira. That's the kavana of Kadosh Baruch Hu creating man and woman. V'hayu lebasar echad. They should be into one flesh. It doesn't mean they were created that way, Gemara says, and then Kadosh Baruch Hu split them. But when he split them, it wasn't b'hayu lebasar echad. Doesn't mean there's other kinds of echadness, oneness that there is in the relationship.
The separateness and our oneness.
There's like lahavdal elaf alfa havdalis. Nietzsche once expressed. He says, "Let there be spaces in your togetherness." But we have more less than space, closer. But we also have to have. It's not a one kind of like loses their identity in the other, subsumes themselves into the identity of the other. It's not that way. It's totally they have the identity and they are together. They merged. Merging means they have they're sharing the same goal in life. They're sharing the same hopes in life. And that's the oneness in their thought, in the process of ultimate. Whether or not a woman does this to accomplish that oneness, or a man does another thing to accomplish that oneness, as long as they agree what the oneness is, they are one in a strategy of growth and development and building a home.
It's kind of what harmonious.
Exactly. And they maybe have different. It's another phrase actually that Mr. Nietzsche, Havdalos used, harmonious diversity. The Omru, Shechina, a house is in the Shechina dwells in a home that has this Shalom Bayis, this oneness. Sometimes the relationship of covet, respect, and honor, v'cherdas, and the intimidation of respect, of derech eretz, of being particular in how you act with someone, mare chisoren kiruv, may demonstrate a lack of kiruv. In other words, if a man and a woman have so much covet, there's a trepidation, and she's worried about expressing herself kind of completely to him. He doesn't want to say the wrong thing to her spouse, and he doesn't want to say the wrong thing to her. That kind of is mimayit. It contradicts and conflicts with the ava and the kiruv that the Eibishter wants of the basar echad, the basar echad, to be one. You can't be one if you can't share everything that you have with your spouse.
If you're walking on eggshells constantly,
right? If the eggshells are walking is because, even if it's caused by covet and derech eretz, he's saying, that you covet. Sometimes you have covet for a Rebbe, so you wouldn't say certain things to him, right? A child has covet for a Rebbe, he would stand up, he walks in, and he does this, and he would do other things. Covet for Rebbe, that covet sometimes is the recipe for distance in a relationship. That cherdas derech eretz, the intimidation of respect that the person has, takes away from the kiruv, the closeness of basar echad, of being one in a marriage.
And in fact, turns out to be not really respect in its truest sense.
Well, he's just talking about the generic concept of marriage, of not having to be able to speak everything to your spouse that you need. And sharing with one is, and not the covet that you have for them should not be a barrier to being one with your husband. Okay. You have to be, it can't be a covet relation. You can't have a relationship just of covet. The relationship to your spouse cannot be one of tremendous honor and respect in your actions. Maybe in your heart you have that. But it can't be that way demonstrated the whole time. Asher yichus michubad lo yimtza lo mokum. A yichus, too much relationship. Not yichus, that genealogy, but a yichus relationship that is too much covered. He says, lo yimtza will not find a place in a healthy house.
What are the manifestations
Look,
of that?
I have to go through this Peretz, I think, before we go that, because he explains himself as he goes along. I think we should just go through this. Uvedichus bekalas yoser dichus, a lightness, and even sometimes joking, a jocular part of your relationship, and you have that, you adopt that, and kalas, a lightness, a casualness. Yoser ohuv, it's more lovable to the Eibishter and to a marriage, mikayved roish, from a kind of intensity, becherdas hakavod, and intimidation that respect sometimes could cause, which causes distance. I mean, I know wives that stand up for the husband whenever they walk in. And maybe they don't have anything to tell their husbands that they're holding back. Maybe they're not holding back. But I've seen relationships where the covet is so intense that when they had problems, they would tell their problem solver, their Eichler giver, the marriage counselor, I mean, how can I tell it to him? How can I say it to him? I mean, or vice versa. Or the wife would say that. Or the man would say it. How can I tell it to her? I mean, how can I say it to her? That's not healthy. It's very, very unhealthy. And that's sometimes that covet is built into the marriage, like from before or from whenever, and it's cultivated over 10 years, and then it's hard to get out of it sometimes. V'tzorach lehes ametz lehes nznaig ba'oifen yoser mikurov. Person has to train themselves to act, to conduct themselves in a manner that's closest. It makes them closer. Uveyichus yad yemin lismor moil, and the relationship like right to left. In other words, this is a definition of what it means to be kind of spaces in your togetherness. Yad Yamin is on the right side. Yad Shmol is on the left side. And there's this middle that is mafsik, but they're still one. They're still connected to the same one. The Yad Yamin to Yad Shmol are connected like two hands together. But there's something in between them. There's a little separateness between them with the body, but that's all needed to make that one of the Yad Shmol and Yad Yamin. Ein ledaber b'loshen echachas. Never talk third person to your husband or to your wife. Oh, well, in front of other people, perhaps you could do that. You could address them that way. But to your husband, say, what does my husband would like to have for dinner tonight? What would you, my Rebbitzin, like to have for dinner tonight? That's not a Yaiser Karev in a relationship. That's not the closest way you can be in a relationship. If you talk, what would you like to have? I know people who say to their husbands, what would the rabbi like to have? It's not what the Chazon Ish suggests. I don't know where they got it from, what book or sefer they got it from, but definitely not what the Chazon Ish suggests. Ela b'loshen echochish, you talk to them directly. Peretz, what could I do for you? And vice versa to your spouse, you say the same thing.
Does this notion even exist today, that people actually...
we should talk about that, Peretz. We'll get there. I think we should just... Let me finish
He's
this
saying
first.
It's really a false covet.
I mean, we have to first finish this in order to be able to have this discussion. I think it's an important point to discuss. Lohidiya, you should tell your spouse, biyitzia la'on hoylech. When you leave, when you exit the home in the morning, you should tell her, I'm going somewhere and so... right? Because she's now familiar with what your schedule is. Uveshuva, when he comes back, he says, Ma'os. He tells her, it maybe sounds like frivolous, but he should share with her what he did that day. Uchyoytze by bedvorim kitanim, speaking to even frivolous things.
Small talk.
Small talk. And frivolous is kind of more of a, maybe not the right thing a right word to use for that, but small talk. Over divrei chizuk, and each one should share with the other. Divrei chizuk, strengthening. Sameach Leib, it wasn't so good today, it's going to be better tomorrow. Beginnings without an end. Life is, Sam Keen says, beginnings without an end. You always have a new beginning every day. Instead of a new beginning when we get up in the morning. Over divrei chizuk l'sameach Leib. Of course, the most important thing is your tehillim and your siddur. The Eibushter should help that you're doing the right thing, and this should cause the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to dwell in your home. Shalom Bayis, Shalom with Shalom HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is what the Chazon Ish says. There was an Adam Gadol, Mashgiach in Panavish. He wrote a sefer book of Yidata Ki Shalom Ahalecha, Hagoyin HaMashgiach HaTzadik, Rabbi Chaim Friedlander. And he points out a few interesting points. He says that the Chazon Ish said, if you remember before, he said that it's the nature of a woman, the delight in the pleasure or the chen that she finds in her husband's eyes, the charm that she finds in her husband's eyes. He said that before, right? He says that Kadosh Baruch Hu implanted in a woman these tchunos, this natural feeling, so she could do her job b'shleimus. Eser le'ezer kenegdai is not a declaration to humanity of the purpose of woman. I will make a woman kenegdai. What does that mean? As a kenegdai, Peretz? What is that? I'll make a woman
who will be against.
Well,
corresponds to
man. It's not just a definition of what the woman's purpose is. What Kadosh Baruch Hu is telling us, but the Chazon Ish is saying that the Kadosh Baruch Hu is telling us that is the mohus, that is the teva of a isha, to be an ezer kenegdoi, to be that. Well, you use that word that was exactly correspond, right? That correspondence that she has, being ezer kenegdoi, that's what her nature is be'emes. And someone who deviates from that nature, well, I don't know, it doesn't have that bracha in their home. And his words, Loi rak megala masha kadosh baruch hu roitz lasos. The Panavish Mashgiach says, doesn't just reveal to us what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to do or the plans to do. El hu boirei v'koiveya es teva ha'isha. Kol mahus, her whole existence is ezer kenegdai. That's what she corresponds to him. There's much to talk about that particular point, but I just want to go on to one other short point in that, and that's the Stipler's letter. He writes, Ki yedua, as you know, he says him to a young man, Ikar tikva sa'isha boilomehi. The main hope for a woman is sheyela bal ha'oyev, she should have a husband that loves her. Kushiroya she'ze'enoi. Listen to this. And when she sees that it's not that way, Kimat shekarov lepikuach nefesh. He warns us and cautions us that it's close to pikuach nefesh when she discovers that her husband doesn't love her. Right? From such anguish and pain. She's living alone like a live almana, like a, who knows, the pain of that kind of existence. The world of a woman, the globe of the woman, who habal sha'oyevoisa, zuk kol tikvasa v'tzipiyasa. That's the whole hope and whole anticipation in life that he should love her. And if the husband doesn't affirm that to her in his conduct, noisein choshach ba'ada olama. Her world turns dark. Her world turns dark. And he's dark, and he says, "Korov lepikuach nefesh, hadvarim heim kaviyosem, v'yedei azois mimaisim shabol fanav." And the disciple says, "I know this from people who came to me. Imhinish beres nafshis, if she's broken because of this, he nefelas b'dika, and she falls into depression. and etc., etc., etc. So Kodesh Baruch Hu should sheichen Moraim should bless us with a special kind of ahava between the couple all the time. Bez Hashem Yisbarach. Thank you very much.
Amen. Thank you very much, Rabbi.